Is Avowed the biggest cope in gaming? True, I think, honestly.
They keep trying to trick us into believing something is popular, so then we go out and buy it. I'm getting so sick and tired of watching both game developers and games media gaslighting the audience and themselves rather than just calling things out for what they are.
How about just not let yourself be gaslighted?
You need to throw up a signal flare when there's an issue, but they want to keep handing out consolation prizes and then they wonder why studios close down. How do you not recognize that you are exacerbating this issue? Avowed is one of the biggest copes I have ever seen.
Do we care that shitty studios get shut down? The newest word on the block is Avowed is gonna literally kill Obsidian, which honestly kind of slightly predictable, but not that predictable.
Game developers and journalists self congratulating when the numbers and the player sentiment are telling a completely different story. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm struggling to tell the difference between article and advertisement this week. It's like they want to wish success into existence.
I mean, it's really easy. Most of this is advertisement.
That doesn't work. I'm getting Dragon Age the Veilguard deja vu all over again. Look, I don't think that Avowed is an objectively bad game. I've played it. We're going to end up talking about that, but it's just a fine game. It's an
Okay, who's now the advertisement?
okay game, but okay isn't acceptable from a studio as storied, experienced, or as prestigious as Obsidian.
I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure the only thing Obsidian has ever done is made Fallout New Vegas, and that's it.
We should expect more from them. They should expect more from themselves. But the funny thing is that they don't. The industry doesn't want you to expect more. These studios don't want you to expect more. And this studio specifically doesn't expect more from themselves. This is a growing issue in the games industry. It's poisoning the culture of some of these studios because they're not just accepting mediocrity. They're aiming for it. Not my words, theirs.
Well, it's not like they can honestly do more, so it's kind of understandable that they're going to aim to the highest standards that they can have. And that is probably below mediocrity in a month or two at this rate.
Before we get into that, a word from today's sponsor.
No.
This video. Avowed has to be one of the strangest launches I've seen in years because when it was first announced, the hype was undeniable. It was positioned as Obsidian's answer to Skyrim, at least by the fans. It was a return to first-person RPGs from a studio that's known for one of the best in the genre. But as the release date crept closer, something strange happened. The buzz just vanished. Nobody seemed to care about the game anymore. The game barely got marketed, conversation among players was dead silent, and then by the time it launched, it felt like nobody actually even cared about it.
Oh, I know exactly what happened here because I covered Avowed. Avowed is one of the honestly saddest tales of self-sabotage that we currently have, at least in the past couple of months. Give AAA like a week and there's gonna be another one probably and even bigger. But Avowed is pretty tremendous in self-sabotage. When Avowed started, it was marketed almost the initial trailer to everything. It looked like a dark, gritty story that would fit in an Elden Ring type of setting. And then it wasn't. Okay? But that's jumping ahead. The reality is, after that, people were excited for Avowed. I was excited for Avowed. I cheered for this game and I hoped it's going to succeed. But very soon, they started showing more, they started talking about it more, and cracks started to form. Ginormous cracks of the woke kind. And hate players first political messaging also first kind, which is really sad and bad in the modern day in gaming for literally everything. And then our fears got completely validated in the fact that this game is going to be a woke mess. And after that, after everyone pretty much unanimously agreed that this is going to be a disaster, that this is going to be a woke shit mess, people just lost interest. I mean, I lost interest. It was just such a major blow and disappointment that this is going to be bad. And it is bad. There are no excuses for this. There's nothing you can say to make Avowed suddenly not shit tier. Okay? And even worse, honestly, this is probably the most recognizable male in the game because it at least barely looks like a male, not a hermaphrodite. 10 out of 10 Avowed. Okay? And after that, people were just disappointed and they didn't care. Avowed could have easily had probably a 70k plus opening day peak player concurrency wise if it just did not market itself as a Vogue shit show. Okay, that's it.
I was still interested. I've enjoyed Grounded and I loved New Vegas. And while I haven't played Pillars of Eternity, I was excited to see what Obsidian could do with a first person fantasy RPG. I wasn't expecting Skyrim, but I was expecting something that would at least try to stand alongside it. But as time passed, my optimism faded. The warning signs were all there. Xbox barely promoted the game. The general audience showed no real excitement, and it was set to launch in the same month as Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Monster Hunter Wilds. From my perspective, that looks like you're trying to hide the game. And it looks like that's exactly what happened because Avowed's $90 early access period peaked at just 13,000 players on Steam. With a full launch hit, that number barely crawled to 17,000 players.
We predicted this, by the way, in the previous videos that 20k is going to be a miracle. 30k, maybe if it's super, super good somehow and people talk about it, but obviously a long stretch, and 20k was already seemingly absolutely impossible. And at this point, it looks like if by the end of the year Avowed sells 200k copies, that's also going to be a miracle. Yeah, it's that bad.
The immediate excuses I'm seeing are, but it's on Game Pass, as if that somehow invalidates the reality of what we're seeing. Steam's concurrent player count doesn't tell the whole story.
Yeah, it doesn't. Neither does Game Pass. There's a reason they don't show those numbers. Oh, come on, Microsoft literally admitted that Xbox has lost and they have no games. This is kind of super proof of that. No one on Xbox is buying Avowed, and no one who has Game Pass is playing Avowed. That's the reality.
True, but it does indicate a trend, and if a game is a massive hit on Game Pass, well, it's going to be an even bigger success on Steam. We've already seen plenty of games launch both on Steam and Game Pass while pulling huge numbers. Palworld had 15 million copies sold and 10 million players on Game Pass. Over 2 million concurrent players on Steam. Stalker 2, 100,000 concurrent players on Steam despite also launching on Game Pass. Starfield, over 300 concurrent players on Steam, even with day one Game Pass availability. If a game is truly successful, it's successful everywhere. And right now, Avowed is not doing well. That's obvious to me, to most.
I will tell you effectively the Game Pass numbers on the theoretical spectrum. 3 to 8 times. Game Pass for free can theoretically have 3 to 8 times more players than the Steam sale. Not the Steam sale, but the concurrent player amount. 3 to 8 times. So Avowed maybe has 100k people playing on Game Pass, but that's extremely doubtful. And again, 100k playing your game for free in a situation where it comes out and there's literally zero competition. Disaster.
Most players that are paying attention and to anyone that's looking at the numbers without blinders on, but that's not the narrative that games journalists are pushing right now. Instead, they're trying to manufacture success.
Actually, this is one of those rare situations where games journalists are in cahoots with the Xbox fans. Because I don't know what's wrong with Xbox fans. They constantly just yap about the fact that no Xbox game is bad. Every Xbox game is good. Avowed is so good.
With articles like Avowed is already a big hit on Steam, celebrating a measly 17,000 concurrent players on Steam as if that's something to brag about. Avowed tops bestsellers list on Steam despite backlash, pretending that the chart placement somehow means anything despite the fact that the competition that's on there are weeks-old releases and games that aren't even out yet. Avowed hits impressive Steam chart milestone before its release, hyping up a meaningless number that's outweighed by a complete lack of long-term.
It's not a meaningless number. It's a number that shows that no success can be had.
Engagement. I'm so tired of seeing all this media spin. You're not my GameStop rep trying to sell me a game. You're media outlets that are supposed to be covering industry news. It's the same pathetic gaslighting we saw with Dragon Age the Veilguard, a game that was supposed to have topped the Steam charts and was declared a strong seller despite completely failing to gain any traction with players, ultimately even EA.
And all of us knew it.
acknowledged that it was a failure. But let's be real, Avowed's failure isn't just about the weak sales numbers, it's about how this game got here in the first place. Xbox's marketing for Avowed was non-existent. It felt like it just got dumped onto the market with no fanfare, no build-up, and no attempt to get the players excited or involved. If you haven't followed the news closely, then you
Avowed had marketing. But then again, this just proves my point about marketing being like, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but when it works, you always know, but when it doesn't, you always also know. And in this case, it doesn't. Because Avowed had marketing. A lot of it.
you barely even know that Avowed was coming out. But what makes matters even worse is the only real marketing that this game has got over the last year, well, it came from the art director torpedoing the game. Instead of trying to build hype for Avowed, the art director Matt Henson took to Blue Sky to rant about Elon Musk and identity politics in video games. And not only did he make it about himself, he dragged Avowed into it, turning it into a political talking point instead of an exciting RPG. This is the first time in months that people were even talking about Avowed, and it was actually because the developer hijacked it for his own personal agenda. I've talked about this before, but this is a growing problem in the industry. Developers don't seem to understand what they say impacts their games. We live in a world where half the audience is terminally online, and alienating a portion of that audience can completely derail any momentum a game has. This is a leadership issue. You have your key creatives out there, and they feel comfortable using your game as a soapbox for their personal beliefs. This is telling me two things. You have no control over your employees, and you do not care how players perceive your game. When the only notable thing about your game before launch is controversy, you're setting yourself up for failure. The uncomfortable truth that no one in the media wants to talk about or say out loud is that Obsidian and Xbox set themselves up for failure. Not only just allowing one of their developers to hijack their product for personal reasons, but also for a failure to manage expectations and genuinely trying to connect with their audience. This isn't just marketing and management incompetence, it's a complete breakdown of studio leadership. Now they're paying the price for it. But if you guys really want to know why Avowed isn't selling, let me go ahead and play you guys the game's first trailer.
We have always known war.
Yeah, I know, already completely different.
It forged our empire. Turned heroes into queens and kings. And decimated our foe.
Honestly, just from the sentence, turn heroes into queens, they should have known what's coming.
Now our oaths are lost, forsaken. And you must face the monsters our sins have borne. Is an oath.
Dude, don't tell me that's not some kind of Lord of the Rings Gandalf flee you fools moment.
Worth the weight of a crown.
Yay!
We were teased a dark, broody, gritty world, a narrator weaving a tale of conflict and high-stakes adventure. Yet years later, Obsidian revealed that the game's actual art direction and story didn't really line up with players' expectations. Instead of a mature...
I mean, this art direction didn't align with baseline reality and humanity to begin with.
Grounded fantasy RPG setting like people had imagined, we got yet another pink, purple, neon-soaked game using a soft modern art aesthetic that has infected so many games today. Instead of immersive, distinct character designs, we got the same androgynous, feature-muted male and female characters.
Hey, that's the most unandrogynous you can actually get a female in the game, okay?
Well, we just keep seeing audiences reject. Who's lining up for that? Who's getting excited for that? Nobody. And I would bet good money that Dragon Age the Veilguard's disastrous reception probably led a lot of players to be a lot more cautious of Avowed because of how similar these games looked. You know, I hear game developers and journalists whining that players need to respect creative freedom and expression, but where the hell is that creative freedom when all of these games are starting to look the same? Now, of course, developers can change their art direction. I'm not saying that they can't. That's not the issue here. The issue is the radio silence for 3 years, followed by a bait-and-switch reveal that left players confused and disinterested. At that point, people just tuned out. You can't do that, especially not today. And this isn't just an Avowed problem. This is an industry-wide problem. Developers need to engage with their audience. They need to see how players are responding. They need critical feedback early, not just validation from industry insiders and coworkers, especially when they're taking radical shifts in art direction, tone, and atmosphere. Larian Studios' publishing director made a really great point about this. While they didn't mention Avowed specifically, let's be honest, they're talking about Avowed, or at least Dragon Age the Veilguard. But he said, "You can't wait to see if a game resonates with players. It's insane. Why wait and see? It's a strategic play. Build resonance before launch. Set expectations, under promise, over deliver. The latter may sound crazy, but it's far less crazy than saying something didn't resonate in a financial report like that's a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise. It should be a process." And this is exactly what Xbox and
Oh, that is the tweet game journals tried to spin as, "Oh, look at that, even Larian thinks gamers should shut up and eat slop and pay more money."
Obsidian didn't do. Developers need to be direct with their vision, be transparent. Imagine how different the reception would have been if Obsidian had communicated these changes earlier, when player feedback...
Well, that no one would be playing this game at all. It would be literally a dust spawn. Okay? That is horrible advice, Legendary Drops. Never follow this man's advice ever, okay?
actually could have meant something. Instead, they just dropped a trailer that players immediately rejected, downvoted, and yelled at, and then they launched a game to an audience that didn't even want it. Look at the difference in viewership from the initial teaser trailer, 1.8 million views, to the actual launch trailer of 9.
Yeah, again, Avowed could have been so easily an absolute success. Because people want a Fallout New Vegas. And again, this is what people thought that Avowed is going to be, a Fallout New Vegas. But it's not, because it's woke shit.
99,000 views. What does that tell you? You know, on top of that, imagine how different things would have been if Xbox and Obsidian had held their developers accountable, if they had fired Matt Hansen and disavowed his use of the game as a weapon in a culture war. Instead of letting a key developer drag Avowed into controversy, they had made a clear message that their focus was on the game, not politics. Think about how many players would have rallied behind the game out of respect. How can they not see these easy layups here? You need transparency and you need respect to build trust with your audience. Xbox and Obsidian had neither. I don't understand how these companies think that they can continue to be successful while excluding their audience and remaining silent. Or worse, mocking them and alienating them. The games that resonate, that build a dedicated...
Okay, listen, this is how bad the game is watched.
Or worse, mocking...
See that? That's destructible wall. You know why it has that icon? Because game devs thinks we're so fucking stupid that we couldn't figure out, wait a minute, walls that look like this are destructible. Maybe it's destructible! No, it's not. No. That's why they're like, no, the players would never think that. That's why we're gonna put the autism image here. Sad.
Them and alienating them. The games that resonate, that build a dedicated player base, are the ones that developers are actually engaging with their fans, setting clear expectations, and delivering on their promises. But Obsidian, Xbox, they did none of that. They refused to listen, they refused to market, they refused to control their own people, and now they're learning the hard way that if you ignore your audience, well, your audience is going to ignore you.
I mean, maybe the devs have a point. Maybe they also need to put an exclamation mark when it's a destroyable terrain, because I mean, he just fucking ran past it. He literally looked at it and then ran past it. Maybe the devs have a point, you know? Maybe the devs have a point to treat gamers like retarded children.
For you. This might sound like it's coming out of left field, but I think that game developers need to disconnect from politics. And some people are going to agree with me and be like, yeah, I don't want to hear their opinion. And I get where you're coming from, but what I'm actually saying is that, like, just in general, it's just not good for people. Whatever your political leaning is. Look at the news cycle given any channel. It's constantly, you're doomed, we're doomed, we're doomed, we're doomed, we're back, we're doomed, we're back. You're going to be...
I mean, the back part is a lie. That doesn't happen, but that's fine, honestly, in my opinion. But we are doomed, I mean, duh.
Spiraling all of the time if you're constantly dialed into that stuff. That's not healthy. And eventually you're going to feel like the walls are closing in on you, like the world is on fire. And in some cases, the world is on fire, but what the fuck are you going to do about it? You make video games. So then you start putting it into your video games, your opinions, or your beliefs, or the things that you're afraid of, or what you're trying to fight against. And since this industry has a lot of people that share the same opinions, well, all of a sudden, all these games start looking the same, playing the same.
I love these fucking useless retarded PCs, by the way. Like, look at this. I think this is displaying how much degrees whatever the fuck in the PC is. Okay, very, very cool. And look at all the neon colored lights. Is your monkey brain activating? No, no, it's not. Why not? In lights and shit, dude. What the? I absolutely hate personalized PCs, and I'm not gonna lie. I look absolutely down on every single person who buys this overpriced garbage. Okay, my opinion can be changed for the appropriate sum of money from any PC sponsorship. All of these PCs are just shit.
Sounding the same. They're destroying the relationships with their studios. They're destroying the relationships with their audience. It's just not good for the industry. At least that's my perspective. You're welcome to disagree, but I think it's something that these studios need to route out. Well, I think the controversy had an effect on the game's reception. I think more than anything, it's just the tonal shift and the art change from the first trailer to what the game actually became. Because players came and they were like, oh, I went to the butcher and all they were selling.
True. I mean, okay, listen. Avowed. You just need to look for it and then press in. Okay. Actually, I can't see too much. Wait a minute. I'm gonna share this. The start. No. Okay. Okay. Let me just share the screen here. So see. Okay. Because this is the point, right? Okay. See. This is what you see when you search for Avowed. Okay, all of this that you see right here, this is kind of new. This is not new, but this doesn't even look that bad, okay? This is what the marketing for Avowed initially was. Some kind of epic fight moment against a giant monster. This type of stuff, okay? This kind of dark, gritty things. And, look at this. Look at this. Completely different vibe. Absolutely, completely different vibe. Locations like this, okay? Sometimes something like this, but that's a little bit rarer. They were distinct biomes, okay? Look at that, a bustling city. And this is what Avowed was truly at the start, by the way. This is what they marketed it as. This is what they marketed it as. Like, look at this. There's so much of it because this was supposed to be Avowed at the start. And yet, what did it turn into? Well, it turned into wokeness. Look at this shit. Avowed trash. Look at that. That's literally me, okay? Actually, you can find me a lot when you... you can find me a lot when it comes to shitting on Avowed for being woke trash or something like that. Like... It happens. It happens, boys. It happens a lot. This is what Avowed turned into. Sad. It could have been so much different. It could have been so much better, in fact. But at the end of the day, it wasn't. Why? Pandering, politics, all of those things that no one cares about in gaming.
One was Wonder Meat. It's just not what players were expecting. It's not what they're excited for. It's not what they're asking for. And I think it's time to realize that Obsidian is not the studio that you think they are. Most people are basing their opinions on Obsidian off of New Vegas or Pillars of Eternity. It's been 7 years since...
True. I said this so many times. Obsidian proved that they are not the people who made New Vegas after the launch of Outer Worlds.
Since Pillars of Eternity 2. It's been 15 years since Fallout New Vegas. Things have changed. Look at their last few games. They're competent, but they're forgettable.
Again, every studio that has a legacy and it made a good game 10, 15 years ago, at this point, is subverted trash. No exceptions, pretty much. They're all just bad.
Worlds, it had style.
Especially Blizzard, you fucking suck extra.
But the writing was bad. The world felt static. The RPG mechanics weren't all...
But I am enjoying Season of Discovery. Thank you very much.
All that good. Grounded was a fine game. Pentiment was a thing.
Ooh.
But that's the thing. They aren't failing to live up to their expectations. I think that... they're not failing to live up to their potential. This is their potential. I think that's what this is. They're not aiming to be the studio that made New Vegas or try to make better than New Vegas. They're not chasing innovation or excellence. They're chasing okay. So,
okay, let's please not go to the stupid innovation point because no one cares about innovation. Like, look at the past games that have succeeded in a year. Almost none of them innovate shit.
if they've lowered their...
In fact, the best games are just doing stuff that has been tried and tested and true for, I don't know, decades at this point that people like, and they're just doing it good.
standards that much, why should the players have any higher of expectations? We shouldn't. And they don't want us to. Now, initially, I thought that Avowed was underperforming for the quality it delivers. I've played the game for around 15 hours, and there were a lot of things that I genuinely liked. I think spellcasting feels really good. Combat in general feels really good.
Yeah, this is what I predicted, that combat could feel really good. But that combat in some situations is going to be like a Dragon Age. Oh, this is just this giant sponge. Have fun.
Which is pretty rare for a first-person RPG. The world is dense rather than expansive, which I actually appreciate. Exploration has its moments, and performance on day one is pretty solid. On paper, this should be a pretty decent RPG, but
I actually don't like dense over exploration. I like a meaningfully dense exploration. I am a huge fan of the Fallout way of exploration, by the way, or even Skyrim or whatever, Oblivion, Morrowind way of exploration. You go, and instantaneously you think, well, there's probably nothing here. But in the distance, there's something there. And on the way to that distance, in pretty reasonable intervals, you encounter something that, diverges you from your goal. I think that is the best type of exploration. I don't like exploration where it's like, oh, here's the thing right there, 5 steps away. You go in and you go out, and right in front of you is the next thing 5 steps away. I don't like that too much. That doesn't feel real to me. That does not feel like something that could ever happen, okay? That is like walking around a nuclear apocalypse and expecting every house to have something useful inside of it. It's just not gonna happen.
the longer you actually play it, the more the game just feels lifeless. Like, the world might be dense, but it's not reactive. It's Dragon Age the...
Yeah, that's the thing. When every single crack has something because it's just packed dense with shit, that makes the world seem not real. It makes I think it just highlights the fakeness of your situation. And that's not a good thing, because that takes you out of the experience.
The Veilguard in first person. Exploration is not rewarding. The environments feel static, and you quickly realize that every area just boils down to the same bandits, skeletons, bears, and lizards. After a few hours, you just feel stuck in place. There's no real variety, no sense of discovery, just a repetitive loop of looting upgrade materials, collecting coins, and reading dull notebook entries.
Also, you know what I don't like? It's the highlighted shit like this. Okay? Highlighting quest items? Maybe. Okay? Maybe we're gonna get there. But just highlighting every pickable, uppable item means that you have failed in Design 101. It is like the Curse of Starfield. They over-design every location, and there's like 15 different tarps, 15 different crates, 15 different these things. And the reality is, you need a specialized tool that highlights what can be picked up and sold, because you can't fucking tell otherwise. And this is kind of the same deal. Like, look at this. There's so much shit here, but none of it can be picked up except this whatever book. Why can't anything here be picked up? It just doesn't make sense. Okay? That's why I really like the old Fallouts. Well, Fallout 4 technically also does it pretty well. But, it's like, it's sparse. When everything is like this, it's kind of lame. And when you need to be guided to what can be actually interacted with, means that you failed design. There's just no excuse for this, in my opinion.
Raid materials, collecting coins, and reading dull notebook entries. Let's be honest, nobody's playing an Obsidian game for the combat. People are coming for the writing, the characters, and the depth. Pillars of Eternity, the very foundation of this world, was built on that. But Avowed, there's just nothing. No urgency, no emotion, no tension. You crash land on a hostile island.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think this is 12. 12 conflicting points of color. This is OCD fucking heaven or some shit. This probably got an aneurysm in a couple of people.
Island with only one other survivor, and you're both acting like it's just another Tuesday. The world is dangerous, but nobody seems to care. I knew I was in trouble when 3 hours in, I was already starting to skip dialogue. Modern RPGs have this obsession with exposition dumping, constantly bombarding the player with highlighted phrases that they don't understand, giving zero context, and then piling more exposition on top of that. Avowed is
Intelligence 3 out of 3. This place is abandoned. Well, shit.
exhausting in that way. When I found myself fixating on the characters and the story, I had realized that Avowed is suffering from the same problem that Starfield did. A better RPG launched within the same window, and I just can't accept mediocrity anymore. If you go to play Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and then you go play Avowed, the difference is staggering. In Kingdom Come 2, characters react to you. If you get drunk, Henry is slurring his words, wobbling about. He can barely hold himself together in dialogue scenes. If you commit crimes, townspeople remember you.
Okay, listen, yeah, we know about this shit. no reason to just rub that shit in. Anyway, that was Legendary. Drops 10 out of 10. Bye.